If you don't want a DUI, don't drink and drive. Here's 3 ways, just 3 of many, that a breathalyzer test can be wrong. Number 1, residual mouth alcohol contamination. All sorts of things can cause a false reading on a roadside breathalyzer test. Mouthwash, gums containing alcohol, asthma inhalers containing alcohol, candies containing alcohol as an ingredient, eating a banana. All of these things can cause a false reading on a roadside breathalyzer. And if the officer doesn't know about it, they're not going to be able to wait the appropriate time to ensure that the residual mouth alcohol gets eliminated. Number 2, calibration errors. If the device has not been checked for calibration every 28 days and recalibrated if there has been calibration drift, you can get falsely high readings. You can also get falsely low readings, but you can get incorrect, inaccurate readings. A breath test can be wrong because of problems with respect to the calibration of the breath test. Just because it said you failed, just because it said you were over the legal limit, doesn't mean that it was actually programmed to correctly identify what your blood alcohol level was. And the number 3 reason that a breath test can be wrong is your biology. The way that breath testing works is it assumes that your breath is equivalent to your blood at a particular ratio, that 2,100 parts of your what we call deep lung air, your air in your lungs, is equivalent to 1 part of your blood. And this is done using a scientific principle known as Henry's law, that at a given temperature, the saturated vapors above a solution, so if you think about the solution being your blood, the alcohol in your blood being the solute in the solution, the evaporated vapors in your lungs, because you've got all those blood vessels running around your lungs there, is going to contain a proportional concentration. And the assumption for breath testing is that at 34 degrees Celsius, the breath is leaving the body and it is saturated at that ratio. The problem is that scientific studies done in recent years have shown that there's actually a wide variability in the human population with what the partition ratio is for breath testing. That there are ratios as low as 1,900 to 1 in some studies and as high as 2,400 to 1 in some studies, which means some people are going to be blowing falsely low and some people are going to be blowing falsely high relative to what their actual blood alcohol level is. Doing a breath test is just making an estimation based on an assumption that you're like everybody else in the population. And as a bonus, a 4th reason that your breath test could be wrong is if you have a fever. Because again, it's temperature dependent. Henry's law requires the assumption that the breath is leaving the body at 34 degrees Celsius. We assume the human body is, 37-ish degrees Celsius. And of course, your breath is going to be a little bit cool relative to your body because you're taking in, air that's typically cooler than your body and breathing it out. And so if your breath is warmer when it's leaving your body, the calculation is going to be off. And the conversion is going to be wrong. If you have a fever, you can get a falsely high breath test, all just because you have a fever. And let's remember, too, that the temperature of the human body has also been changing over years. Science is showing that the human body's temperature the normal temperature is changing, probably in response to climate change. I don't know. I'm not so deep in that science that I could answer, but that's my instinct. And number 2, that everybody's different. Again, the normal body temperature is based on the average. It's not based on individuals. For me, my body temperature is typically, when I'm not sick, when I don't have a fever, is typically lower than 37 degrees Celsius. That's my norm. But that doesn't mean that that's the norm for everybody else. And so you're also, relative to the rest of the population, maybe slightly different, and then getting a slightly higher or slightly lower incorrect breath test result as a result of that.